Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Let's talk about the one thing that's been secretly holding you back without you even realizing it. You think you're choosing emotionally unavailable men by bad luck. But what if what you call chemistry is actually an old alarm screaming that you already know this kind of pain? I'll show you something no one talks about. You're not attracted to him. You're attracted to the opportunity to finally fix what you couldn't fix before. And until you realize that, you'll keep calling what is actually an emotional rescue mission love. You do this without realizing it. You meet a man who keeps his emotional distance, who doesn't fully open up, who promises more than he delivers. And instead of walking away, you feel something ignite inside you. It's not desire, it's recognition. Your nervous system is saying, I've been here before. I know how this works. And this time, if I do everything right, maybe he'll change. You swear it's about him. But it's about the fear that was born years ago, when you learned that love is something you earn, not something you receive. And this pattern has a name. Attachment psychology calls it an internal operating model. It's like an emotional map drawn in childhood that you continue to follow into adulthood. If you've learned that affection is conditional, that emotional presence is rare, that you need to strive to deserve attention, then available men will seem unappealing, because they don't activate the part of you that's still trying to prove your worth. Let me show you the complete cycle. You meet someone emotionally distant. Your body recognizes the dynamic before your mind does. You feel that mixture of anxiety and excitement that you confuse with passion. And it begins. First, you try to connect. You are patient, understanding. You give space. You believe that if you are kind enough, vulnerable enough, he will open up. But he pulls away. And you interpret this pulling away as evidence that you haven't done enough yet. So you try harder. You offer more understanding, more patience, more presence. And he remains distant. And you keep trying. And the cycle repeats itself. This is called the pursuer-distander dynamic. The more you advance, the more he retreats. The more he retreats, the more you feel you need to advance. And in the midst of all this, you completely lose touch with the most important question. Why am I working so hard for emotional crumbs? The answer lies in projection. You're not seeing him. You're seeing the version of him that exists in your imagination. The version that will one day wake up, realize his worth, and choose to stay. But that version doesn't exist. And while you wait for it, you're giving your emotional energy to a fantasy. Here's the difference that changes everything. Vulnerability is not neediness. Vulnerability is saying, I miss you, knowing you'll be okay, even if he doesn't respond the way you want. Neediness is saying, I miss you, while holding your breath, waiting for his response to prove you matter. Vulnerability comes from a place of wholeness. Neediness comes from a void that you're asking him to fill. And emotionally unavailable men sense this. They sense when you need them to feel whole. And that pushes them even further away. Not because they're cruel, but because nobody wants to be responsible for regulating someone else's emotions. The hard truth. You don't want a partner. You want to fix the narrative that says you're not enough. And you're using him as proof. I met a woman named Maya. A therapist, 38 years old, professionally secure, completely lost emotionally. She had been dating a man for 8 months. He would show up, but never fully. He would text, but take days to reply. He would make plans, but cancel at the last minute. And every time she thought about breaking up, he would reappear with just the right amount of attention to keep her waiting. One day she told me, I know he has potential. I see who he can be. And I asked, but is who he is now making you happy? Silence. Then we did an exercise. I asked her to describe the relationship as if she were talking about a friend, without justifying, without explaining, just the facts. She began, he's not emotionally present. He promises things and doesn't deliver. He makes me feel like I'm too much when I express my needs. And then she stopped. Because hearing that out loud changed everything. She realized she wasn't loving a man. She was loving a project. And that if a friend of hers were going through this, she would say, get out of it now. Maya ended it 3 weeks later. And for the first time in years, she felt at peace. Not because she found someone better, but because she stopped betraying herself. Now, let's get to what you can concretely do to break this pattern. Insight. You forgive him for things you would never accept being done to someone you love. Step by step. Whenever he does something that confuses or hurts you, imagine it's happening to your best friend. What would you say to her? Ready-made phrases. If my friend were going through this, I would advise her to, would I accept someone treating my sister like that? Common mistake. Thinking your case is different, that he has special reasons, that you need to be more understanding. Indicator of progress. You begin to feel clarity instead of confusion. You see behaviors for what they are, not for what they could become. Insight. You will only stop choosing unavailable men when you learn to calm yourself down. Step by step. When you feel that anxiety of wanting to text, call, seek validation, pause. Take 5 deep breaths. Place your hand on your chest and mentally say, I am safe. I am whole. Pre-prepared phrases. My worth doesn't depend on his response. I can feel this and not act on it. Anxiety is not love. Common mistake. Confusing calmness with indifference. You can care and still not react impulsively. Progress indicator. The time between feeling and acting increases. You can observe your emotions without being hijacked by them. Insight. You repeat what you haven't processed. To change the pattern, you need to go back to the origin, step by step. Write in a journal. What was it like to seek attention, affection when I was a child? List the memories that come to mind. Then ask, am I reliving this now? Ready-made phrases. This is an old wound wanting to be seen. I don't need to prove anymore that I deserve love. As an adult, I choose differently. Common mistake. Avoiding the discomfort of this reflection. Staying on the surface. Progress indicator. You begin to recognize triggers before reacting. You see the pattern forming and are able to interrupt it. Insight. Emotionally unavailable men thrive in the hypothetical future. You break the spell by bringing everything to the now. Step by step. Every time you catch yourself thinking when he changes, or if he notices, return to the present. Ask, is what's happening now nourishing me? Ready-made phrases. I'm not available for potential, I'm available for presence. Now is enough for me to make a decision. I'm not going to live in his future anymore. Common mistake. Believing that just a little more time will reveal who he really is. He's already revealing it. You just don't want to see it. Progress indicator. You stop making imaginary plans. You evaluate the relationship for what it is today, not for what it could be. Insight. Every time you stay in a place that hurts you, you are betraying yourself. Step by step. Write a list of the things you will no longer negotiate. Emotional presence, consistency, respect for your needs. Stick it somewhere visible. Ready-made phrases. I will no longer betray my boundaries for fear of being alone. Being alone is better than being in a connection that drains me. I deserve someone who chooses to be truly here. Common mistake. Making the list and not honoring it at the first difficulty. Progress indicator. You act from your boundaries even when it's uncomfortable. You choose your peace over fantasy. Listen, you can have everything right in life. Career, friends, purpose. And still choose men who don't choose you back. Because that choice isn't rational. It's emotional. It's visceral. It's a pattern so deeply ingrained that it feels true. But it's not. And the day you realize that, everything changes. So here's the final invitation. You don't need another man who makes you feel like you need to prove your worth. You need to look in the mirror and recognize that this search for external validation started long before him. He didn't break you. You were already broken. And he just gave you the opportunity to finally pay attention. The woman you're becoming doesn't ask for crumbs. She doesn't convince anyone to stay. She doesn't turn indifference into a challenge. She simply looks at someone who isn't available and says, that's okay. I'm not available for that either. And she leaves. Not with anger, not with resentment, but with the quiet clarity of someone who knows they deserve genuine presence. Because you deserve it. Not when you do more, not when you are better. Now. The question that remains is, are you ready to believe that? So let's talk about what's really going on here. Not the superficial version, the real version. You're watching this video because some part of you knows. You know you're tired. You know you've been repeating the same movie with different actors. You know you called it love when it was actually familiarity disguised as destiny. And I want to tell you something that maybe no one has said yet. You're not wrong for doing that. You were doing the best you could with the emotional tools you had, with the map they gave you, with the beliefs you absorbed before you even knew you were absorbing them. Matthew Hussey says something that struck me. You don't need strategies to make someone love you. You need the courage to stop chasing someone who isn't running towards you. And that's not about being tough. It's about being honest. It's about looking at the facts without the filter of desperate hope. Because here's the truth that hurts but sets you free. He's already shown you who he is. Not in words, not in promises, but in actions, in consistency, or the lack thereof. And as long as you keep believing that he'll wake up one day transformed, you're choosing his fantasy over your own reality. Esther Perel talks about something profound. The difference between loving someone and loving the idea of who you would be if you could make him love you. She says that many times we are more in love with the redemption narrative than with the real person. You want to be the woman who was special enough to make him change, the woman who had enough patience, the woman who loved right enough. But listen, you are already special. You already have patience. You already love deeply. The problem was never the amount of love you have. It was the direction you were pointing that love. Attachment theory teaches us that our first bonds create a kind of internal model of how love works. If you grew up seeking attention that was intermittent, if you had to earn affection instead of simply receiving it, if you learned that love is something conditional, that you only deserve when you behave in a certain way, then your nervous system will recognize this as normal in adulthood. And when you find someone emotionally available, consistent, present, your body doesn't recognize that as love. It recognizes it as strange, as bland, as too easy to be real. But that's not intuition. It's conditioning. And you can decondition it. Osho said something revolutionary. The greatest fear is not being alone. It's being with yourself. Because when you are alone, you need to face all the parts of yourself that you tried to fix through him. All the questions you tried to answer through his validation. All the voids you tried to fill with his inconsistent presence. And that's the journey that nobody wants to take, but everyone needs. Returning to yourself. Not as a pretty self-help concept, but as a real, daily, sometimes painful commitment to learning to regulate yourself. Learning that you can feel anxiety and not act on it. That you can feel fear of abandonment and still not cling. That you can want connection and still not accept crumbs. Here's what Dianetra Santos's framework shows us. Transformation does not happen at the moment of decision. It happens in the following days, when you feel like sending that message and you don't. When you feel the urge to justify his behavior once again and you stop. When you wake up in the middle of the night with that wave of, what if I'm making a mistake, and breathe through it. The woman you are becoming is not the one who never feels doubt. It's the one who feels and acts according to her values anyway. It's not the one who never feels fear of being alone. It's the one who prefers conscious solitude to the company that empties her. It's not the one who never wants to chase. It's the one who asks herself, why am I chasing someone who is walking away, and chooses to turn in the other direction? And I know it's scary. Because for the first time you're not trying to change him. You're trying to change yourself. And changing you means giving up all the comfortable narratives that have kept you trapped. He just needs time. He's afraid of getting hurt. I just need to be more patient. If I leave now, I'll prove that everyone who abandoned him was right. No. You are not responsible for his emotional healing. You are not his therapist. You are not his mother. You are not his savior. And he is not your redemption project. You are a whole woman trying to build a whole life with someone who only shows up halfway. And that will never work. No matter how many strategies you use. No matter how perfectly you communicate. No matter how deeply you love. Because a relationship isn't about one person loving enough for both of you. It's about two whole people choosing to build something together. And if he's not choosing, you can't choose for him. You can only choose for yourself. So here's the question that will change everything if you're brave enough to answer it honestly. What are you really missing if you let this go? Not the potential version of him. Not the relationship that could be. But what exists now. Today. Unfiltered. Unjustified. 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 And if the answer is inconsistency, anxiety, confusion, waiting, then what are you really holding on to? The truth is, you're not holding on to him. You're holding on to the belief that if you can make him stay, it will prove something about you. That you are enough. That you are choosable. That you are worthy of consistent love. But you already are all of that. His presence or absence doesn't change anything about your worth. It only reveals whether or not he is in an emotional place to acknowledge it. And if he's not there, you don't need to convince him. You need to believe in yourself enough to leave. Because on the other side of that decision, there isn't eternal loneliness. There's dignity. There's peace. There's the version of you that looks in the mirror and respects whoever sees it. There's the real possibility of a love that doesn't make you question yourself all the time. That doesn't make you feel like you're too much or too little. That simply sees you and chooses to be present. But you'll only find that when you stop accepting the opposite. So I leave you with this. Not as a demand, but as an invitation. The woman you are becoming is waiting for you on the other side of the courage to let go of what doesn't nourish you. She's waiting for you on the other side of stopping negotiating your boundaries. She's waiting for you on the other side of believing that you deserve true presence. And she's worth it. More than any hypothetical version of him. You know what to do? You always knew. Now just do it.